Hello, welcome to Pop Chat. My name is Annette Tarpley. I am the founder of the Passion of Poetry, and with me today I have Pat Duggan. Did I say it wrong or right?
They'll do. They'll do.
Duggan. No, Duggan.
Duggan's fine.
Duggan. See, I did. In that short span of time that he taught me how to pronounce his name, I had forgotten how. The reason why is this. You didn't know this was happening in the background, but as soon as I pressed play as far as recording, a little thing popped up that said if I didn't free up some space, that this was not going to be recorded. So hopefully it's being recorded. I was trying to get rid of um, some backgrounds real quick, and so I've never had that happen before. So I think a lot of it has to do with me downloading videos for this. I got a lot of things in my hard drive as well as I do certificates for the pop members. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you introduce yourself to us. Tell us where you're from, whatever personal information you want to divulge, and tell us about your poetry and your writing career. So tell us about Pat so we can get to know you a little bit better. And so I'm going to give the screen over to you, sir.
Okay. Calling myself a poet feels like walking on stage, calling yourself a musician, and you can only play three chords. It feels a bit self-aggrandizing to call myself a poet. But to give you some background, I'm from Manchester in the north of the UK. After traveling around for a few years when I was young, I did lots of different jobs. At 40, I did a French degree. Then I worked in IT for years. Then I set up a guitar business. And then I opened a jazz bar and had bands on. I did that for years and I sold it 3 years ago when I retired. So that's my background briefly. And when I had the bar, I started filming the bands. And what happens, you start off with one camera and it's like lighting a fire of enthusiasm. And before you know it, I've got 4 cameras, I've got a gimbal, I'm walking around and actually like doing the filming more than anything else. So when I sold the bar and retired just before COVID, piece of luck, then the filming took off and all passion projects. I don't have to do anything for money. And I just really like what I'm doing. But last year, I'd never written anything as what you call a poet, as a story. I did start coming up with lots and lots of scripts for film ideas. And then I decided to do a nostalgia project, which was basically when I was in the Scouts when I was 12, and I had some of the best times of my life. And I wondered if I could recreate that, which is quite difficult. As you can imagine, it's not much footage. I did have a few photographs, and the original site where we went to, it's about 50 miles. It's still there, and it's an enclosed woods with a lake called Delamere Forest. And I contacted the Scout Association in the UK, said, yes, you can come and film. Went down, got some footage, and I also got some archive material from the Scouts. So I had some photographs as a background, then started trying to put a story together. And that's where it got interesting because I'd never done this before. So you've got whatever project it is now, start off with an idea of what it's going to be in terms of, say, a recent one I did last week, quite gloomy topic about death. And then you put all these things together, all these expressions, and then you've got trying to put them into rhyme, put them in to fit together, and quite a fun game. So to give you an idea of the scouting phrases, and the very first thing last year, describing breakfast, burnt sausages on toast. Burnt sausages, black fat coated eggs, bliss on a sandwich. Oak beech, not pine. I knew the trees to climb. And it carried on like that. And surprisingly, I got a good response off that. People, especially people who'd been in the Scouts who were older, and it encouraged me to have a bash at a few more things. So I did a story about time passes by in the blink of an eye, and then one last week about when the TikTok stops, which is about dying. But what I found really interesting, and I think anybody who's interested in putting a video to their own words, it's the advent of AI photographs. So last year when I was struggling to put images behind, what you have to bear in mind that if you create a film and it's going to be shown anywhere, one of the prerequisites really is that 85% of it is your own material. So you can't just go and get a lot of stock footage and put that together. Now with the
Is the AI thing, is that the thing that's controversial?
yeah, it's really it, I don't think people realize
Is that
what.
the thing that will write a poem? If you tell it to write a
Yeah, well,
poem, it writes a poem?
I would describe this as three levels of at AI. So you've got the one that's been out for a while that is getting developed and it's causing a lot of controversy, which is basically text. And
Yeah.
I don't think poets, storywriters would like it because you can give the brief outline what you're interested in, and
Yeah.
it'll come back with different things. And if
Yeah,
you
do you know that I think that that is really gonna, we have some plagiarists in our community, and I think it's just gonna heighten, I mean, and how are you gonna be able to tell, you know?
um, as
Yeah.
yet, it could put a story together, given you the parameters you've put in. Whether it
So
could
that
create,
we talked about this thing. We had a 40K, we had a little 40K celebration. We just turned over 40K members on Pop. And we had about four of us, including Alan Johnson. I don't know if you know Alan, but we had this conversation about this. And it was interesting because as soon as that was over, I was on my internet and it popped up the Microsoft Bing portion of it. And it said, ask me anything. So I thought, So I started asking about myself. I was like, Annette Tarpley bio, and it came up in my bio. And then I was like, Annette Tarpley poems. It came up with my poems. And it was like Annette Tarpley YouTube came up with those. And finally I said, I am Annette Tarpley. I have to tell you what it says. I have it here because I texted it to Alan Johnson because he's the one that started that conversation. But it was interesting because it was almost kind of scary. So what it came up with when I said that was it said, it doesn't say it here actually, but what it said was, I said, I am Annette Tarpley, and it says, oh, I so admire your work, and you're just marvelous, and you're renowned, or whatever. So then it said, do you want me to write a poem about you? It asked me that. So I said, sure, ask me to do a poem. This is what it came up with. It's called A Poet's Heart. And like within seconds, it came up with it, It says, she writes with passion, and her grace, her words touch many souls. She shares her joys and sorrows, her hopes and dreams and goals. She writes with wisdom and insight. Her poems reflect her life. She celebrates her victories. She overcomes her strife. She writes with humor and wit. Her poems make us smile. She brightens up our days. She makes our lives worthwhile. She writes with love and faith. Her poems inspire us all. She spreads her light and kindness. She answers to her call.
did you pay him for that?
No,
No, I'm
it just
joking.
came up with it. So then afterwards, it was interesting because I said this. I said, ask me a question. So I said, I'm concerned about you because you are taking the jobs of humans, and you yada yada yada. And it was like, I'm uncomfortable about the subject matter. I really don't wish to discuss it. Please move on to a different subject matter. And so I said, I think you're making it easy for plagiarists to, and then again, I came up with this. I don't really want to talk about this. Please change the subject matter.
Well, I think that everything you've discussed is level one. That's text and word. And this it seems to me there's three levels. So the next level that is available, which I've been using for about 3 weeks, quite a lot, um, is text to image. And the third one, yet to come, is text to video. And I did investigate this. And to be honest, what's out at the moment is rubbish. But what is coming, the two main players, Microsoft and Google. And I filled in a questionnaire from Google. And they asked me, why are you interested in creating video? I said, because I like making films.
Right.
And if I could create a video bypassing the need for real actors and set, solo, this is a powerful tool. So that's yet to be released, but they put me on the list as a beta tester. So I'm going to be intrigued to see how that pans out.
You're
Now,
gonna be like a beta. You're gonna be like a beta tester for them.
yeah. I
Wow.
used to work in IT. I'm not in software development, but really, beta testers, fancy name for I'll play with it and see what I can do. But more to the point, the text to image. My example of a video poem is a fabulous example of creating images, the need for images for your story, because it's not exactly a film, but you need a storyboard. And if you're doing anything that's especially nostalgic, old, you won't be able to create or obtain pictures. So one example, I've got about 4 more on the go. One based on another one on childhood. And I started making a list of all the things that I used to do as a kid.
Yeah.
And making stilts. Do you know what stilts are?
Stilts. Stilts.
Stilt. STILTS. Yes.
Yeah,
Stilt.
I know what stilts are. You walk on them, and I would fall down and
Yeah.
wouldn't be able
Yeah,
to.
we get some wood and we put a piece on and you walk in the
Did
street.
you do stilts? Were you on
Yep.
stilts?
So that's one thing. And there's that whole raft of experiences for instance, making, I don't know if what you would call it in the US, but in the UK, even then it's got different names. We call them a bogie or a guider. And basically you get 4 pram wheels on a plank, right? And put a seat on it and a brake. And it's what kids make. So what I'm trying to get across is that I've got no
Like a
picture.
box derby car, maybe like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're just little wooden things with wheels on, and you race around hills and stuff. Now, I just described that and I got images straight away. And then I was describing as an 8-year-old playing football in the street. And in those days, there were hardly any cars where I lived. And
So
hardly
my
any.
question is, when they were sending you these images, were you having to pay for them?
No, no. There's quite a few players now with the images. The biggest one, Midway, I've looked at that. They make head and shoulders above the rest some of the best images, but it's not free. And I'm not really interested in not free. So the next protocol is nightcafe.studio.
Yeah.
And it's really good. They do give you about 20 templates for the different kind of images.
Mhm.
And it's all down to your power of description. So to give you an idea at the
They give
beginning,
you music too to go with it?
I didn't look into that because I paid this subscription, a yearly subscription for copyright-free music. If you're doing video, it's a real deal getting
Where
copyright-free.
do you get yours from?
I use Soundstripe, and it's about in dollars, maybe $140, $50 a year, unlimited tracks. So that's not a paid advert from just what I use. But getting back to the video, I put a description in. And the very first ones, nothing to do with what I could put in a film, just as to how useful it'd be. I put 3 old men playing table tennis in a bombed out building at the end of the world. And it come back with 4 variations on it, and it was stunning. Then
Wow.
another one, old man playing electric guitar on a roof of a bombed out building, end of the world. Just something ridiculous. And it works. Now, the problem with Night Studio is that they work on a credit and they give you free credits, but
Mhm.
it's not endless. And
They
so
give
the
you free
final,
credits, but what? I'm sorry, what did you
to
say?
create an image, you need credits. If you want just one image, you can do that. But if you want variations on it, eventually you're going to have to get credits. So the final one, Microsoft Bing, and it's funny you should mention that.
Yeah,
And it's not got the templates and it's not got the scope of Night Cafe, but it gives you 100 credits. It's like 100 images. And I've used that extensive over the last few weeks to create
wow,
storyboards for 3 different films. So if somebody's got a poem and they want to storyboard it and create into some kind of imagery,
right,
um, the next step, to be honest, is I was doing things quite obvious. The image was a reflection of the situation. For instance, on things can change in the blink of an eye. The opening line was on a wintry night, a bend too sharp and a leaking brake. And he came up with 4 images of exactly that: a snowy road on a almost a mountainside, and it's obvious. But after a while, it's it's an absolute reflection of it, but there's no subtlety. You have to kind of learn, and I think that's with a bit of experience, how to make it less obvious and more subtle, not hitting you over the
yeah.
head with it.
When you are doing that and you're requesting those images, how long does it take for them to get those back to you? Seconds?
10 seconds.
Wow. So I don't think you know Alan Johnson.
Well, I did. I only found this site on Facebook a few days ago,
Yeah.
and I found this interesting. And
Do you know of his work? Have you seen any of his work?
no,
So Alan Johnson is from the UK. He's we call him the voice of the poets. He's a musician. So you give him your poem, and he composes the music. He narrates the piece,
yeah,
and then he puts videos together. So, Alan, if you're watching this right now, I want you to send me on my email a video so he can see it and then compare to what they're doing. I I can't imagine that anybody could possibly beat Alan as far as all of his talents are concerned. We have some. I'm sorry, we have some comments.
well, if he's, I don't know, I've not. I'd be interested to see, what he's created. If he's doing videos with a camera, actually filming, that's original
No,
things. If he's storyboarding it with images, then
yeah,
look, I'm not a proponent of, let's move to AI. It's just that I've suddenly found this is a great tool, extremely controversial, and photographers are extremely worried because some of the results, if you are good enough, I like an actual photograph. So in the same way the text is, that's controversial, and I
yeah,
don't know how the video is going to pan out. I'm
yeah.
intrigued to see what's going to happen there.
We
But
have um, loved your conversation with virtual intelligence. It made a beautiful poem for you, my dear. What did I've made videos myself, very bad ones compared to Alan. So I know it takes a long time for me to do them, to compile the images, to just to do everything, time everything right. As I'm sure you had to do that also, right? Because you got the images from them, but you
oh,
still had to do your thing, right?
yeah, it's a lot quicker than actually filming footage and taking your own photographs. The whole editing is a long process. Some of
Yeah.
the films I've done, I might spend a week editing. It's a lot of, a lot longer to edit than it is to film.
So
Uh,
when you say the films that you put together, because I know I saw the one about the death thing, so I saw that one. But are you talking about ones with poetry recitations? Or
well,
are you talking?
this is not a video poem. This is generally, if it's a short doc, anything I'm into, the amount of work required is phenomenal.
Okay.
But with a video poem, if you do not have to go out and take the photograph and and shoot the video, it's a godsend. Yeah, it is a bit worrying where it's going, but I think for people interested in poetry and video poems, this
Mhm.
is a new thing, and
Yeah.
the novelty's not worn off. It might wear off in a few weeks.
Yeah, yeah. We got I do not know what language this is, but I if you could interpret it into English, unless you know it says something about poetess or something or other, I'm not sure. Also, if you could sign your comments, because otherwise you're just a Facebook user unless you change your settings. This is from Geeta. Hi, my dear Geeta. Dr. Geeta Mohanty. She's one of my admin. I heard about it before, how vertical and artificial intelligence is taking share from human emotions and heart. Really debatable, but it couldn't appreciate this emotional aspect of the human heart. I guess I'm intrigued by it, yet I'm resistant to it because I feel like man continually throughout history, and even more now so than ever, has tried to comprise things to basically take away us as the component for it and put in something mechanical. You know what I mean? You know, you go to Walmart now and you have to check yourself out. You don't even have people that check you out anymore.
I
And
think it, no matter what, how artificial, it can't. Nothing can replace human emotion. And
yeah,
power you know,
yeah,
take for instance when the CGI started gathering momentum, Star Wars, and the later Star Wars, where the effects were incredible. And George Lucas, he was so carried away with it, he thought that was the way to go. And a lot
so
of the
he used it with the Star Wars film.
yeah, the later ones, yeah. Well, it's that CGI. You know, it's created image, computer generated images. But what he missed, and where he fell over, was that it was so just like now. When you see films that are nothing but effects, and you know, especially like the Marvel stuff, and it's super effects. There's no human contact. It's about emotion. It's about reactions, and no amount of fancy effects are going to bypass the the enjoyment of seeing reactions and characters and people. That's
Yeah,
the way I view it.
yeah, yeah. So you said that you really just kind of started writing in the past year or so. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was only last year. When I started doing the video thing, I started coming up with film ideas, quite a lot, to be honest. But the problem is, the fancier the film, or should I say, the more people involved, the more sets involved, the less chance of making it as in an amateur
Yeah,
world. So you work around with what you've got. So in some ways, it maybe they're going to be like cartoons, and you could still get across the idea of your film in
yeah,
one way or another. It
yeah.
could be another, not replacing, but it's another medium. Um,
Yeah.
I still like
So
going out.
do you have any connections? Because a lot of times, in order to really get recognized, you need it's not what you know, it's who you know, kind of thing. So are you
Well,
connected at all in that world?
yeah, I'm in a couple of video clubs. I joined the Manchester Independent Filmmakers, and I put a few into the BIAFs, which don't get them confused with the BAFTAs. It's a British International Amateur Filmmakers, and you get hundreds of amateur filmmakers putting them in. And funnily enough, the one that I got some recognition for was 1 minute, and it wasn't like just a simple story. It was something wacky, really, and
Oh,
that encouraged me. It was a 1 minute film about time going too fast. And to give it the gist, I did put a lot of time expressions in there. You know, for instance, at the beginning, you've got all the time in the world. There's no rush, no hurry. And what I did, I time lapsed the clock in the kitchen, which is 2 foot wide, put that into slow motion, put it into reverse, and I had to mask it out and replace it on the kitchen wall. I was playing at a table tennis bat, holding a ball up. So at the beginning, it's in slow motion, really slow. And then I'm making a coffee, and I put a GoPro inside a cup and did it at 200 frames a second. So I got slow mo, sugar, milk, cold coffee, but things started speeding up and speeding up. No time like the present. You know, it's too late and all the rest.
yeah.
And it's the whole thing. And it was the end of it was actually a bit of a joke. I filmed myself reading a broadsheet newspaper in the toilet. That's like this.
I
Uh,
wish we had that video to show.
I
I
was
would love to see
film
that.
myself outside the toilet. The door's shut, and I'm banging, banging. Let me in. I need the toilet. The door opens, and I'm, you know, you got all, and really, the gist of it was, the perception of time depends on what side of the toilet door you sat. So
Wow, that is a rather enlightening statement, sir.
it was just a funny, wacky thing. But I was surprised that people like that more than you would do about some documentary about, a lake and woods. And
So it sounds like you've kind of found a new hobby, passion, something that you really have
well, it's
shown
been
interest
three
in.
and a half years now, and yeah, it's great to have a focus. This video poem thing is brand new because it was only the last few weeks I've wrote the TikTok stops. The whole poem about dying. I'm not going to recite it all, but when a TikTok stops and your body drops,
Why
can you?
don't you recite it for us?
I'll see how much I can remember. When the TikTok stops and your body drops, can you look me in the eye? Say you've been a good guy. When your mind reels fast to the years gone past, to your mum and dad, your days as a lad, the footy in the street, the kids that you meet, the days at school, 40 in a class, did you have any laughs? The girl that you met, the bliss of a kiss, the tingle of a caress, your pals at the time, the world at your feet, the working life, striving for more. Did you enjoy what you did? The girl that you wed, was it thick and thin? Did you make it as a dad? Did you make them proud? The glory days, the big days, the away days, the holidays, the days without ends, the jump out of the bed days that couldn't face the days, the days full of tears, the days full of cheers. When a TikTok stops and you're lying in your box, the words are said, the tears are shed, can't believe he's dead. The world spins round, you're long buried in the ground. A name and a cross, an entry in a book, not a second look. Did you enjoy this life and the world around and the stars above? I've probably missed out a bit, but that's the core of it. Quite
And I think
gloomy.
I think that's the one that I saw the video on, right?
Yeah, it's quite gloomy, but
Well, the
that's
the video
that's
was I
oh,
thought the video was very well done, though. I thought you did a great job. So you said you've been doing it for 3 years now, making videos, right?
yeah,
So
but
how many
I've
do you
only
think you've
now
made?
discovered about writing stories. That was over the last few weeks. So suddenly I've got four more. I've done two. Another one was similar to that about blink of an eye about the Scouts. I did one about family history in a way, kind of rhyming. It was sad.
Yeah.
Well, I did a lot of family history stuff last year, like months on it, and my history is grim. My background. To give you an idea, in Manchester, my granddad, who I didn't know that side of the family, and he was one of nine, and the nine were nine of 20. 11 died, and he was from Angel Meadows, regarded as one of the roughest, toughest, saddest places in Manchester. It was bad.
Mm.
So when you explore all this, I started putting this into a video, and a lot of them were potato famine refugees, which is the potato famine in Ireland in 1830s. A lot of that, I don't care anybody says, was created by the British, by us. A million died, a million emigrated because of it. And, when you discover, your background and where it's from is quite
Yeah.
poignant. So I
Yeah.
don't think I'm on that, but it just gives you an interest and a focus to do. So I made a really sad family thing about that. But
Yeah.
getting away from the sad ones, now got this kind of momentum, think, like making a rose tinted view of your childhood. And I've got Blackpool, which is, if you're English, you'll know what Blackpool is. But as a child in the 50s and 60s and gone to
Mhm.
Blackpool with the two-headed woman and the ridiculous things, it's a fun thing to go at. And I've got a
So
little list.
explain to those of us who aren't British what it is.
Blackpool's a holiday resort in the northwest. It's got a tower on it. It's about a third the size of the Eiffel Tower. And in the early 1900s, it, uh, a lot of the towns from in the northwest and further, that was
Mhm.
the destination, and it was absolutely hammered with crowds. And in the Golden Mile, they had all crazy things, and like the two-headed woman, and people would get jugs of tea and go on the beach, and these donkeys, and there's a wealth of crazy stuff, which is now for me nostalgia. But now it's a place where people go and just get drunk. It's a boozy town, to be nice to it.
Yeah. We have a
Anyways,
couple other comments. Jill is in the room. Jill Tate is one of our administrators. She's from the UK also. So brilliant. Please sign your pieces so we know who you are. And Stuart Dan, who is a brilliant poet, is here. His signature is the roses, so we usually know what it is. Congratulations on an interview. And Stuart said he writes doom and gloom. And then, of course, he's from the UK also, so he says the Blackpool Illuminations.
yeah, they like the place up. I've been intrigued to read some of the. I'm new to this site.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead and read a piece for us?
No, no, I'm intrigued to read of some of the poems
Of
on the
course. Yeah.
sites. What I'm used to, American poet. I've read a lot of Charles Bukowski.
I don't even know who that
Oh,
is.
he's like the poet of grimness. Let me just
He's
think.
like is he like a updated Edgar Allan Poe?
No, I think he born about 1920, died about 1994 or something. And they were brutal, harsh poems, and well celebrated. For one I was looking at recently, if you're going to do it, go all the way. It may cost you your sanity, your girlfriend, your life, but don't do anything unless you're going to go all the way. And these are really blunt, strong poems. And in the UK, I've been brought up with John Cooper Clarke. Are you
Yeah.
familiar with John Cooper Clarke? England, the Brits. John Cooper Clarke is like an English institution. It was a punk poet in the 70s. It's in his early 70s now, and he's still prolific, and they're still really funny a lot. And to give you, I can recite a paragraph of one of them. If I'll try, I'll tell you what, I forgot. Let me just.
Yeah, I wrote one fairly recently, 2 or 3 months ago. I was ticked off, and so it's my release. But it's called the Snake in the Grass, and it's about it's done in kind of old English,
Yeah.
more Shakespearean, but it was my release. I'm sure you've noticed that it can be
Well,
quite a release.
this John Cooper Clarke couldn't be more opposite. I'll give you the last paragraph of his full poem, right? And it's about a hire car.
Do,
Rent
do,
it, rent it,
do you
bang
want
it.
to read the whole
This,
thing or just the last
this
paragraph?
is a paragraph. It's just 5 lines
Okay.
from. It's the last paragraph from quite a long poem. And he's a Mancunian like me, and so when I say it, it's actually how it comes across. It's very similar to how he puts it across, and it's at this speed. Rent it, dent it, bang it, prang it, bump it, dump it, scorch it, torch it, crash and burn it, don't return it, lost deposit, let them earn it. Who cares? It's on the firm. It's a hire car, baby. And that's a taste of the John Cooper Clarke school of. I've got a little paragraph of one of the one I was talking about, Charles Bukowski, right? Um,
The American writer, did you
yes,
say?
American writer, lived there, and he was really prolific. And this is the if you're gonna try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, and maybe even your mind. I it could mean not eating for 3 or 4 days. It could mean freezing on a park bench. It could mean jail. It could mean derision. It could mean mockery, isolation. Isolation is the gift. All the others are a test of your endurance. How much do you really want it? And you'll do it. Despite rejection and the worst odds, it's better than anything else you can imagine. And if you're going to try, go all the way. And that's a sample of one of his poems. And he's got books and books. And if you've not read any of that, you're in for a treat. This is a
Wow.
world away from anything too elaborate and old school. It's quite blunt.
There's an old poem. I don't know if you've heard of it before. It was a famous poem. It was written in 1927 by Max Ehrmann called Desiderata. It has a lot of wisdom in it. Have you ever heard of that?
No, but do you know? Can you?
It has about, I can do about 3 lines.
Yeah.
It starts out like, go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. And without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Listen to even the dull and the ignorant, they too have their stories. And then this part I've quoted several times to people. But do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. And beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe. No less than the trees and the stars, you have a right to be here. And then just another short line I remember is, but do not, feign affection, nor be cynical about love. For in the face of aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as a grass. So those are the only 3 lines I know.
It's a long 3 lines. It's always fascinating to hear new poems with good ideas in and expression.
Yeah. So when you write, what subject matters do you usually?
Well, so far, because I haven't done much of this, it stemmed from nostalgia, but
Mhm.
suddenly it's opening up into newer territory. For instance, the blink of an eye was not nostalgia; it's about life changing. I suppose a way, but some of the new things I've got. Um,
Do you want to read something?
um, well, no, not really, because the blink of an eye that I've done, the scouts thing that I've done, the family history thing that I've done, the child, the memories of childhood. It's like 3 pages, and I don't know
No.
whether people work. Like for instance, when I describe stilts and bogies and marbles, it's okay writing that down. You've got to formulate that
Yeah.
into a phrase that that fits. Do you know what I mean? Even if it's not strictly poetry, it's more prose, but it's still got to flow. Do you know what I mean? And I don't find it too difficult to come up with ideas and put them down. But the challenge is putting that together into a prose rhyming thing. And this is new. It's I should have been doing this when I was young, not
Yeah.
69.
Well, I've only been doing it for 3 years, but I've written hundreds of poems now. It's kind of my passion. So,
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, so welcome to the poetry world.
What I find really interesting in just getting back to video poetry and not so much what I've done, but what I've seen, which I found inspiring. It's a
Mhm.
whole new genre. So I was looking at the video poems website. I
Mhm.
googled it and come up, and there's hundreds of video poems. But what
Mhm.
they've done, they're not putting a story of images to a background to reflect it, something
Right.
obvious. They're doing some really imaginative stuff, like the words could be in the shape of leaves, and the words fall, or it could be there's a whole plethora of words, and slowly some of the words evaporate, and what you are left with is the core of what you really like. And it's only halfway through you suddenly realize you're getting sucked into this beautiful idea of distillation,
Yeah.
and this when I look at it, there's lots of ideas which maybe a lot of poets, with their rich some of the rich poems and ideas, it might be something worth looking into, if they've got a visual
Yeah.
aspect to it.
I'll have to send you later. We could go to YouTube, but I won't do that. But I can send you later a couple of Alan's things. It's always interesting to me when you send someone a poem and then they compile, video, how they interpret it and
Yeah,
how they make that. So that's interesting, I think.
yeah, I'm
But
intrigued to see that.
yeah, yeah. I wrote one called something about menageries, broken. I don't know, something about menageries, menagerie of broken dreams, or something like that. And Alan did a very interesting interpretation of that. So I want to ask you a question. I ask everybody this question. It's a random question. It doesn't have to do with poetry. But if you tomorrow came across Aladdin's lamp, what three things would you wish for?
Three things.
Three things, anything you want.
I'm not going to touch on youth money and obvious subjects because you've got a scope there. For instance, that one of the pains of the world is tribalism to me. Tribalism in every sense. So tribalism can be geographic. It could be my town and the next town. It could be part. It could be a city. So we've got city to city. What tribe you from? It could be your state. It could be a country. So that's on a geographic level. Then inside, you could belong to football team, and then there's another football team. And the UK is rife with blatant tribalism for football. A lot of it isn't about the sport; it's tribalism. And if you analyze every group that people are in, is tribalism, and it can be religion, and it's what causes so much friction, wars. You are not in our tribe, and I don't think you can wish that away. And I don't know if it'd be good if everyone was uniform, you know. But it's a sometimes think about it, the effect of tribalism. Um,
Yeah. So, but that is not a wish. That's a thought.
I can't just come up with that, you know.
That's okay. If you can't answer it, or if you don't want to right now, that's fine. It's no big deal. But the whole concept of tribalism is interesting. I guess it has to do with cultures and subset cultures. Really, tribalism, right?
Well, it's kind of a contradiction because you haven't got tribalism, you haven't got difference, and one of the great riches is difference. And
Mhm.
I can just get the boat to France, and then I'm in Italy and in Spain, and they've got the different cultures, and it is enriching to try different foods, see people. The whole thing is enriching, but the same thing that enriches is also what causes the friction. If you know what I mean, it's quite
Yeah,
contradictory.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of contradictory things in our world. I think, don't you think? A lot of things that contradict themselves, indeed. So, if you do have any kind of advice that you would give to a poet or someone who's just starting out writing, from even in your short journey, I'm sure you have some thoughts regarding that.
Well, what struck me about being kind of creative, because although I've only just discovered the kind of prose route,
Mhm.
the filming route since I had a music bar, which I sold 3 years ago, a jazz bar, and from the minute that went, and all the pressures went, and the pressures off money because I'm retired, I feel it kind of opens your mind into being more creative because everybody's just we're all focused on what we're doing, the
Yeah,
job. If you're in your 30s and you've got a full on job and you've got a family, I don't know where they get the creative time from. It is amazing. Um, and I thought, why haven't I thought of lots of these ideas before? It's because you're too focused on everything else. Just let
yeah,
your mind wander, and it's amazing what pops up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It certainly is, indeed. So, Stuart, I thought Stuart made a new comment, but he just said to check out the Poets Lounge. It's on Facebook. That's Alan's site. So, is there anything? So you You have some creativity. You dabble a little bit in music. You used to have a music store. Of course, on the computer, you're more savvy than most of us. And so
Well, I
you,
used to work in IT.
yeah, yeah.
So, and it's surprising that even though I'm not worked in IT for years now, it's still there. Uh,
Can you tell me how to get my computer, my printer talking again?
patience. Here's my answer. It's a bit of patience
Okay,
because
the patience.
the first protocol is to smash it. You know, things are
Yeah.
going wrong, smash it.
I think
And
I remember reading some joke about an IT person had written it, and they were like, um, is it plugged in?
yeah,
I mean,
turn it on and
just
off
the
and all that
basic
stuff.
things.
But I think that the core difference is you've just got to be a bit patient because technology can be so frustrating and you just want to walk away and really, it's demanding that you just calm down and I had exactly that as it came on. First time I've used this app, and this is a new laptop,
Yeah,
and it didn't like the browser. So I downloaded within minutes Firefox, and you're logging into Facebook from this. Oh, I want to send a message. Oh, use this password. I had to change the password.
yeah,
I had to go to the phone, and this is within like 2 minutes when it was supposed to become live.
yeah.
And I just thought I can't just shut the laptop and dance on it. It so it's
Yeah,
not about being,
computers are a love hate relationship. When they work good, it's fine, but when they don't,
yeah, you just can't smash the thing up.
can you think of one memory when you were a child that really is something that's very endearing to you? Is there anything you can think of? A story from childhood?
What I do remember about childhood is when you say you're out in fields or wherever, you're not looking at thing, you are the thing. Do you know what I mean? It's as if kids are on drugs where everything's so intense and it wears off. And
Yeah,
sometimes you just want to try and get back to that um, feeling of, say, you were looking at a bee on a flower, for instance, and it's just flying there. But you know what? If you just sit still and you get into it and you become it, it's still there for us. But I don't know whether your attention span moves, but I think we all had that as children, the ability to see a thing, and it could be your imagination. And my granddaughter is 3. I watch her, and she's in her own world of creating it. And I thought, what happens to all our minds? That we lose it, don't we? No.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We do. Yeah, yeah. I sometimes, we're both not exactly as young as we once were. So as we get older, we start forgetting. Do you have children? Because I've noticed that I somehow I've lost my right as a parent. They become the parent. I'm the child. So
Well, actually, same with granddaughter. It's my step. I haven't got any children. It's me stepdaughter's child, but we're so close. It's the same.
yeah,
Yes, I think that moving the roles change.
yeah,
Stepdaughter's 30, and I've
yeah,
noticed a tone sometimes, almost patronising. That
yeah. It's
bless
kind of
him.
like I don't remember relinquishing the right to be a parent. I don't recall that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny how things happen that way. Is there anything, because we're about coming to the end, is there anything that you would like, anything more you'd like to discuss or say, or anything got on your mind?
Well, now that I've had a few new doors open in terms of creating video poetry, and the material is there for you to create. And that's another creative thing, not just a straightforward image.
Yeah,
I feel like this is something brand new. Forget the controversy. If you can create imagery, it can be anything.
yeah,
Well, and mix that in with the ideas that you've already got. It's
yeah,
it's the next step, I think. Instead of just putting a storyboard to a poem, You
Yeah.
can do it.
But when you're putting that together, you have to use the software. What do you use when you put
I used
everything
to
together?
be, because I do a lot of editing. I use
Oh,
DaVinci, and
yeah.
it, there's about 3 or 4 industry standard film editing packages.
Mhm.
Premiere Pro, and
They are a little bit above my head, though. I use
you don't
Canva
need,
because
you
it's
don't need,
so
you
it's
don't
so
need to
user
use those.
friendly.
You don't
Huh?
use to need. You don't need to use an industry standard package. You can even on a simple phrase. I've seen great stuff done on the phone and budget packages. It's just that I use that because I'm used to using it. But
Yeah.
yeah, you can get stuck in it and do it on a simple level. If you're mixing images, you don't need an expensive package.
When you write, do you do it by hand? Do you do it on the computer, your phone? How do you write?
What I've started doing is talking to my phone. I used to literally. I still like pens. I'm a bit old school.
Yeah.
I love a fountain pen and all that. But the problem is, if you're out and about, um, and you just get a random idea, you can just say it.
Yeah.
And I've done things like recite it and see how long it is. Oh, that's a bit short. That's a bit longer. That sounds rubbish. God, that a bit addicted to using the phone as your leaning post.
My phone does not speak a net very well. It makes a lot of mistakes. I'm talking to it and I think, oh, that's not what I said. It's like, oh, sometimes they'll come up with something really random. I'm like, whoa. I'm glad I read that before I pressed send.
You could do it. What I love about it is instant because it could be really random. That you get an idea for something, you need to nail it there and then.
Yeah.
And I just think the older you get, tomorrow could be thinking, oh, what was that idea yesterday that's going to change the world, or whatever. And it's
You really have to write down right away because you
yeah,
won't. 5 minutes from then, you're going to forget. So I'm the same way. If something comes to my mind, I'm like, oh, I got to be
I've got
able to write down.
a few friends who are musicians, and one in particular, he'll think something in the night, and he'll get up and he'll get a guitar and he'll record it,
Yeah.
just have it, and that is a great little.
Yeah. That's great.
Uh,
Even if you have a voice recorder, and you can put it down somehow anyway. Yeah, anyway you can do it. And you said you love fountain pens. I do too. I keep thinking I'm going to find a pen that will change my writing, but it never happens.
what I could suggest to people is about recording the voice.
Yeah.
Um, because I've done this quite a bit. Is in this room. This is quite. This is a double bedroom. If I just use this microphone here, right,
Right.
you're going to pick up the room. You're going to get a lot of reverb. So, and if you're recording to a computer, that's difficult because you get the sound of the computer. So, go downstairs. I can put the laptop, get a blanket, and a really big towel, put that over my head, over the microphone. Don't speak directly at the microphone, side on, so you're not getting the popping, all that. And
Right.
then if you download the free program Audacity, uh,
Yes, I have Audacity. Yeah.
yes. So if you go on YouTube, 5 tips that you always need to do with your voice, like boosting different levels and normalizing it to get the best out of it. And it's just a tip if someone's recording the voice, it's at the entry point of just record it. You really need to make the best of it.
Yeah. So you just put a towel so you can get that studio sound by putting a towel over your head.
Yeah, or a blanket. It cuts out the reverb around the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
yeah,
never
it's
thought about doing that. I've done pillows in the back of what where the speaker is, what I'm speaking into, but I've never thought about doing that. That's kind of brilliant, actually.
the only difficulty I found was that when I had the towel over, I'd be just getting into it, and then I've got a little dog, and he wants to know what I'm doing, and he's banging, let me in.
So he's bugging you like, "What you
Yeah,
doing under that
what are you doing?
towel?"
And I was saying, shut up, the TikTok stops.
That's funny. Yeah, dogs are great. Well, our time's come to an end, but I want to thank you for coming and chatting with me and divulging the knowledge that you have of doing something that most of us don't know how to do. So that really helps us a lot. And welcome to the writing and poetry
I'm
world.
looking forward to exploring some of the poets and the work on there.
Yeah.
No doubt there's going to be some great stuff that I'm going to find.
Yeah, yeah, we have a lot of great poets. We really do. If you want to
Yeah,
check out the contests, we have contests a couple times a week.
yeah,
Dennis Brown does one on Mondays called Members' Choice Mondays, where he gives three titles of subject matter for poems, and then the members vote on which one they want, and then they write about it. And then Jill Tate, she does one on the weekend, Saturday picture prompts, where she does that. So, yeah, I did actually I did a picture prompt last night. One of my best poems came from a picture prompt. So, you know,
Is that like you see an image and that is what it conjures up and you've got to write something to it? Is that what you're saying?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
like yeah, like one day there was a contest and it showed a man that was out in a field and he had a hat on and part of his face was obscured, like you couldn't.
yeah.
And so I wrote a poem called "The Ballad of Ned." It's kind of my signature one. It's about bullying and yeah, but
Bowling.
bullying, picking on kids, bullying,
Oh,
picking,
bullying. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
bullying.
Oh, yeah. And he
It's a
got his
great poem.
comeuppance. Yeah,
Huh?
and he got his comeuppance. Can
Yeah, it's been published. It's what I want to write my novel on. Yeah, the Ballad of Ned is near and dear to my heart. It's one of the few that I know by heart. There's very few I know by heart, but um,
Well, it sounds intriguing.
yeah. Well, thank you so much again,
Oh, it's been really interesting.
and sorry about the technical difficulties. It's the world of our technology, I guess. Something always comes up, so it's not unusual.
Yeah,
But
it seems this app is quite specific for the which application to open it.
yeah, yeah,
It said it. I think it wanted Firefox or Chrome. And I
yeah.
was far. He said, "Oh,
I just use whatever is it Microsoft? What is it called? There's
Chrome Edge. I don't know."
Edge. Edge. That's what I usually use. But thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank
it's been great.
everyone for joining us. Hopefully this got recorded. I got rid of some memory at the last minute, so hopefully it has been recorded. We'll know as soon as we get off of here. It'll pop up on Pop. But love and blessings to everyone. And thank you, sir, for honoring me and us with your presence and your knowledge. And it was wonderful getting to know you.
Okay,
So
thanks a lot. All right
you
now.
have a
Okay,
great rest of your
bye.
evening. Bye, everyone.
Bye.